Welcome to Clarity, a podcast powered by the Thomson Reuters Institute. I'm Zach Warren, the Institute's Technology and Innovation Insights lead. In each episode, we dive deep into a single question from decision makers and thought leaders from legal, corporate, tax accounting and audit, and government communities. On today's episode, we discuss the big question: how can tax professionals move from tactical compliance work to more strategic work? For most mid-size and large businesses, the tax department is the dictionary definition of an enabling function. It's work that the business can't legally or practically operate without, but it sometimes gets overshadowed when making business decisions for the company at large. But it doesn't have to be that way. The lifeblood of every modern business is its data, and the tax department holds the keys to crucial financial data that can not only mitigate risk, but help drive more informed business decisions. So the question then becomes, how can tax professionals drive that change from being a compliance aid to becoming a true strategic partner? Today, TRI's Nadia Britton talks with Pilar Mata, Executive Director of the Tax Executives Institute, about practical steps today's corporate tax leaders can take to becoming true business strategists, with insights from the Joint Corporate Tax Technology Report and more.
Welcome to Clarity. I'm Nadia Britton, content lead covering tax, accounting, and trade with the Thomson Reuters Institute. And today we're diving into the question that's top of mind for a lot of corporate tax department professionals. And that's around how can professionals move from beyond the compliance and reporting to doing more strategic work. I am thrilled to be joined by someone who I think could really illuminate and really have us go through this conversation. And that is Pilar Mata, Executive Director of the Tax Executives Institute. Pilar, thank you and welcome. And if you can just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing at TI.
Thank you, Nadia. It's delightful to be here with you on such an important topic for our members. As you said, I'm Pilar Mata. I'm Executive Director for Tax Executives Institute, or TEI. And we are a membership association for in-house tax professionals. We have about 6,500 members who are located all throughout the world. And what we do for our members is really create a community where they can come together for continuing education and learning, as well as connecting with one another and learning from one another. And then we also have a great advocacy portfolio where we have terrific relationships with many government agencies throughout the world where we talk about tax policy matters. And they come to us to get input on rules that they're considering and looking at how different proposals can be implemented and can be administered easily by our members. So talking about kind of how tax is functioning as a strategic partner is a very big part of why our members come together to accomplish that goal.
Great. Thank you. So let's jump into it. The Thomson Reuters Institute and TEI, we recently conducted the annual State of the Corporate Tax Department survey. And in this year's report, it was again really highlighted where, tax teams felt like they spend about 54% of their time on reactive tactical work, but that 70% of them most of them wish that that shift could be something like where they're doing 70% strategic work, right? And the other 30% is in that reactive, because of course things come up, tactical work. So I'll start by asking you any thoughts and I wanted to get into I know we talked about teams quite often, but I think it's important, and especially based on what you've mentioned with your members, that we get to the individual level, right, with this, because I'm sure conversations you're having or have heard. Any thoughts on what some of the things these professionals might consider? What are you hearing?
It's a great question, and first, just want to say thank you for the partnership that we've had with Thomson Reuters. We work together on the corporate tax department survey as well as the tax technology survey. And it has just been so interesting to see, particularly over the last several years, how quickly things are changing and the priorities that in house tax professionals have shifting. Really, I think technology is advancing so fast that it's making certain things that seemed impossible a couple of years ago a reality, that individuals are able to think about how they could bring certain solutions into their tax departments fairly easily. So I think with that, then changes kind of what the role is, and that is something that we really do want to prepare our members as we're moving forward. As we look at, for example, AI coming in, or the text technology tools, taking away kind of those first efforts at problems and gathering data and putting it together and so forth. As those efficiencies are gained, what's really going to be important for a tax professional is being able to level up and to change what they're working on. Um, I think in terms of what an individual can do to prepare for that is probably looking first at an inventory of what they're working on and how much time they're spending in different places. If you're able to find a task that is pretty routine, that recurs often and takes a lot of your time, investing in an automation that can help to make that more efficient, more effective, and hopefully even more accurate is going to really free up time for those proactive and strategic planning, tasks that everybody is so keen to get to. And now with the tools that are built into some of the larger softwares that you probably already have, learning how to use those tools completely and effectively, I think, is a big challenge that people can take to make sure you're getting to use all those bells and whistles that are built into the products and services that you already have. And then also looking at what some other solutions are out there that can be purchased at relatively low cost, or might be part of the tech stack that you already have, like Power BI tools or something, working with Teams in the Office suite. There's just a lot of tools that are out there that can really kind of be used for the individual to take the task. And then exciting thing, I think, is that you don't have to be a tax technologist to be able to implement these solutions anymore. um, Everybody can learn about how to use some of these tools, or partner closely with people within their department to think about how we can, use them. And they really are that close to you that you can start thinking about your individual workload and, what tasks you might be able to make more efficient as you're moving forward.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you started with and kind of led into the tech piece because you're absolutely right. Automation seemed to be a central key, at least in helping alleviate some of those repetitive tasks. And that's also the other piece of the survey that I wanted to bring up, which is again, automation seems, all things considered, seems relatively low, right? In terms of when asked a question, what percentage of your workflow is automated? So I want to pivot to the tech piece because many departments still feel that they're under-resourced, right? So you've got need for automation, that you're under-sourced. You've had some great suggestions on what individuals can do. And some of it, I would say, is to do more strategic work. You probably want to have certain skills so you can have the conversation with saying, hey, we need more tech for this. So I feel like it's a little bit of a loop. So if we can unpack that a little bit, right? For those who say they're, well, my department's under-resourced, um, what can I do as an individual? Is it something as simple as, hey, let me carve out some time, taking a look at many shops, or let's say a Microsoft shop, for example, and their tools that are built within that. Is it then that we're saying to the individual, maybe you can carve out some time and kind of play around with, delve into, right? Seeing again where you might be able to gain some levels of automation that you might not have before. yeah, thoughts around that. Again, you're challenged with being under resourced, so you might not be able to have the conversation to get budget, even though you need it to do, getting probably more automated, more AI. So yeah, how do folks navigate that loop?
It's really tricky, and I think we all have had the experience of being under so much pressure and having so much to do that we spend all of our time on putting out the latest fire, as opposed to stepping back and doing that planning. So it's hard. It's very difficult to do, but I think again, stepping back, taking an inventory of what's going on, looking at like those big opportunities, you can have that time saver, and getting ideas from your peers. So one of the things that's very nice about TI is that you're not just talking to other people within your tax department about what you can do to automate, and they're having this kind of closed universe experience of what is possible. But if you are a member of TI, for example, every member can be a part of our tax technology committee, which meets monthly, and a lot of times they will do a demo of a tool or something that a company just recently put into place so members can share some of those big wins that they've had. And they're things that anyone can pick up and do. Our text technology seminar, and we have also a virtual series coming up on text technology. Those are great ways to get ideas around, okay, I'm looking at state tax apportionment. Like, what is the latest thing that I can do here? And it's that little add on that you can think about implementing. And I think if you can put a business case together for, if we spend this much time to automate this task, it will save this much time in the long run. It's really kind of trying to quantify that for people where you may need to get some investment to either buy that tool or to have somebody take the time to help you with the automation. And so it's really kind of thinking through the business case and the consequences of it. That said, we do see that so many are under resourced right now, and it is a big stressor. But I know that we all feel good about the times that we're able to step back and force ourselves to take that time. So I know I personally, try and build in some time where I am, really kind of looking at that bigger picture strategic thing, even though I have, those little fires that are requesting my attention as well. So I would encourage that as people are moving forward. Another thing that I thought was just fascinating about one of the recent surveys that we did together is to look at how different companies' automation journey is going, and we saw that what you would expect, which is the larger companies with the bigger budgets are further along on their automation journey, which hooray, we would expect to see that. But then what we saw was there's also the smaller companies, those who have more maybe of a startup mentality, those who may not have that big full suite of products and so forth that they're set with, but they're looking for those individual solutions and they can bring them in at a lower cost. So they're kind of cobbling together a series of things that are really kind of helping with the automation. And that was really exciting to see because I think, for many years, we didn't see a lot of hope in the survey. And I think in this most recent set of surveys that we did see that people are really excited about what these affordable, easy to access tools can do. The last thing I just wanted to share is at our last technology seminar, we had an automation challenge. And so members who came and participated were given a use case that they needed to use building some Power BI tools and put together a dashboard for payments and so forth. And it was amazing to see what could accomplish in 3 hours. They had 3 hours to work on this. But like if you understand the tools, getting the training, and there's some very affordable training on some of these things, understanding what's in your pocket already, and then thinking about how you could apply it to a particular situation. It really is tremendous what you can do in a short amount of time when you really have that serious focus and purpose of trying to build something as a solution.
I love what you said, and if I can maybe restate it a little differently, because especially your point around smaller departments being able to pick pieces up. So if I can say, it sounds a little bit like a mindset, right? That they're able to, because I'm sure the workload is as is for everyone, but able to pull themselves back to realize, okay, a tech might help me solve this. I know I'm buried. To your point, there's a million little fires, but if I step back just a little bit and be able to do these one or two things, maybe I can out a few of these fires and then maybe focus on these other things. So it sounds a little bit like a mindset, right? A little bit of a mindset shift. The other piece that I wanted to ask about, and I found that interesting. So for your tax technologist group or technology group, are you saying that folks that aren't necessarily technologists can join and ask questions related to some of the challenges they're having? So it's literally that they're working with someone, let's say, that might be leveled up in technology.
Yes, it really is, I think, a decision for your professional development to say, I want to be technology savvy. I want to understand what the tools are there. I want to understand what the opportunities are and be familiar with them. And I would say that easily 75% of the members on our tax technology committee are tax professionals who have chosen that they would like to invest some time and kind of really understand those things. And so they're making that a point to kind of round out their career as an in-house tax professional by having that area of specialty. But we have people who are just interested in learning more and getting started and can listen in and learn as they're going. And then we have some who the other 25% I'll say are, people with a technology background and they're coming in and maybe they have a tax background as well, but they have a special skill set. But I would say that, a good proportion of our members are really just members who've chosen that they want to make this investment in their career and to make this a part of how they're operating as a tax professional. And I think everybody has the opportunity to learn a little bit more about that and to understand how the solutions work together. It's interesting even to see, as we have our head of tax group, tax technology, I think, was something that they weren't necessarily thinking about 5 years ago. That's something that the people who worked for them were worried about. But now, with our CTO discussion group, we have a session on tax technology and what the future holds in that regard, because it is so important to managing a tax department. So I think a lot of people are starting to look at this as kind of that necessary skill set that you might not have come out of school with, but you can easily build into your career. And I think it pays off when you do so.
Right. So the other place that I was going to go is the skills and the word upskilling or reskilling. I don't know which words we want to use here. Um, how does someone start? I mean, is it, because I think that also can be intimidating. I've heard from people like the feeling that, and especially in the wider news, AI is rapidly changing, and I think that that could create a little bit of deer in headlights. Where do I start? How do I start? Or maybe feeling like I'm already behind the curve, so why even bother start any of those things? What would you say to folks and in terms of wherever they are in the journey, right? Again, even if they're curious but feel like they don't have time, again, the fact is, I think what you've just stated is you have to upskill, reskill, whatever the words are, but there's a level of learning that needs
Mhm.
to occur as it
Yeah.
relates to technology. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. First of all, like it's not as though you need that special tool, expensive software that your company may or may not purchase to start your technology journey. This is something that you can, um, you know, make a point of, reading articles, finding about. There's some great books out there recently, some great articles about AI and how you can use it. And then there are some, I think, less expensive and free classes on how you can start understanding how the AI tools can work into something. So I think being curious about it is probably the first step and really trying to understand what's out there and then thinking about how it could be applied to your different circumstances. Um, you know, AI is not. There's a great quote, and I can't claim credit for it, but AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who uses AI may take your job. I think it's really important to understand that being having an understanding of these tools and being efficient in your job is I think a basic requirement of any employee who is within the company. And so this is something that may feel really new and maybe like it wasn't your job before, but it's part of the basic competencies that I think that we can all start to learn about. Another thing that we've seen is that there are a lot of companies that have some restrictions around AI and what tools that you can use within your company. So if you're in banking or finance or healthcare, those types of things, there may be some real limitations on what you can do. But frankly, I've been playing with some of the publicly available AI tools and just understanding kind of the scope of what is out there on my own free time, on my personal. It makes me comfortable with the tools, and then it makes me curious. And now I'm seeing even more components that are built into the software and services that we have, at TEI. And I think also, like, as you're thinking about the tools that you have within a tax department, that you can say, okay, well, now that I know like what you can do here, what are some of the features within these products and services that I can learn more about, so we can be sure to be maximizing the tools that we are already paying for. And that is a great opportunity. But training, exposure, hearing what others are doing, starting out small, listening in. If you want to come to one of the committee meetings, you don't need to like feel like you need to come prepared to present, but you can listen in and hear what others are doing just to get some ideas around what this is. Attending some trainings is a great way to really understand kind of where the industry is going and what the future is holding. Being prepared and curious about that, I think, is going to be just a huge step for so many to take on this new area.
That's great. And one of the things that I just thought about, right, is as an individual is curious, even if, let's say, work hasn't offered formal training yet, in their seeking out, let's say, outside of work, can probably bring some of that back and say, you know what, here's what I've learned. Maybe if again we do these things, or if again we have training around this, here's how we can work better. So I think I love that idea of the individual empowering themselves to have conversations with their leaders, right? Depending, even if they may or may not be, or even where they are in the AI journey, and especially within the tax department, right? I really love that. So we kind of covered off on the three key pieces, which again, it's really the individual. Basically, you have to take ownership, right? I think that that's the place to start. Busy is going to be busy. How do you jump out of the loop of just being busy, especially if your desire is to work more strategically? It will involve some personal investment and probably some personal time, is what it sounds like, which um, no one feels like they have enough of. Um, any other thoughts? Anything else we hadn't covered off and that individuals should be thinking about?
I think I'm going to add one more thing. We talked about curiosity as being a key mindset for this. But I also wanted to say having some fun with it. I mean, this is like getting the new phone where you get to either be afraid of your new phone or you get to kind of dig and say, oh, wow, this is so cool that it can do this. And so kind of approaching it with that mindset of this is a great opportunity and something that I want to learn about, and just kind of changing the way you're feeling towards technology is probably a healthy thing to do. And then also just to acknowledge that not everything that you do is going to work. And that's okay. Like, failure is part of the process, and understanding, okay, the tool couldn't do this, but maybe something else can do this. And that type of thing, I think, is every moment is a learning moment that's going to take you further on this journey of understanding the possibilities. And so just kind of embracing that. We actually implemented an AI challenge for our staff. And to participate in the challenge, you need to come with your business case about, what problem you're solving, how you did it, and you need to teach our staff at our staff meeting what you did, so that they can then think about how what you did could then apply in other areas of the organization. And it was funny because as we were going through this, somebody came to me and said, I used AI and it really worked well for this particular process, and I'm excited about it. But there's a huge limitation. I used it in this area and it didn't work at all. And I was like, that's also eligible for entering. I don't need, everybody to be successful with everything that they do. But if you find where there's a limitation in talking about that with the team, that's another, area that we need to just be aware of, that not everything has to be a success, and certainly not right off. But again, I'm trying to create a mindset that people are learning, teaching each other, and kind of exploring this, and that it's fun, and that the opportunities there are, it's going to be fun to see where we go, and where we are. But I'm hoping that that will take us further faster than we would have if we were all just kind of doing it at our own pace. So
Wow. I love that. And I loved you using the example of your team. I think that is so important to state that they are going to be things that it's not going to work out, so to speak. But then what I find for myself personally is that it might get me to be thinking about something else. So it might have not worked for this specific instant, but I'm like, but let me think about it, tweak this and whatnot. So that for me, I think I would have never have used the words that AI has helped with my creativity in that way, or just thinking through things in a different way. But it is getting smarter, better. So it will sometimes come back and be like, well, have you thought about that? Or what about this? And even if none of that works, going away, coming back, it's like, but maybe we could look at doing it for this reason. So you're right. I think it is great to play with it. I had someone share with me that they wanted to find the best recipe for a cocktail. I forgot which cocktail it was. And so again, they had all these different iterations, right? And instead of scrolling through Google for whatever, but the point was they were having fun with it. And again, seeing what was possible and what came up, and they consider themselves, a mixologist. And it came pretty close, right? But again, it was a fun, low stake, nothing invested, other than how to play around with the tools. And so I think that is really a great idea, is to have fun. Even again, personally, one friend said she has a personal trainer, and she wanted to see what AI would do in terms of creating a workout plan. And her words were at the end, I don't know if I need my trainer anymore. Right. So, we laughed about that, but that was interesting, right? Again, not related to work, but it again, just have you thinking differently in the ways in which some of these tools can be used. And again, ultimately making us more efficient. So, thank you. Thank you, Pilar. Any final thoughts? Yeah, thank you.
yeah, I thank you. It's a great conversation, and just to say that, I think, as we look forward, and we have more of these tools and resources coming in, I'm really hopeful that it's going to make being a tax professional a lot more fun. We're going to be able to focus on, again, that great strategic and proactive work that we're hoping to get to. And if we can hopefully have some solutions, in place that we can rely on. There's a lot of testing that goes on with all of this, I recognize, and that's another thing to build into this. But I think it really is going to change the field, and what it means to be an in-house tax professional today versus 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It's going to be very different. And so kind of preparing and being excited and ready to go on that journey as be a great ride. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pilar, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun to talk about this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pilar and Nadia, for your insights. And certainly, it's a new dawn for corporate tax professionals, complete with opportunities afforded by data and new technologies. But I also enjoyed the discussion about the need to upskill, which underpins an important point. It's not the time to be passive about your role in the organization. Becoming a strategic force in the corporate world occurs through being proactive. And now, the corporate tax professional has the ammo through data and technology to make that dream a reality. Thank you as always for joining us for Clarity, powered by the Thomson Reuters Institute. You can follow or subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and don't forget to share with your colleagues and leave a 5-star review. For more data-driven analysis of today's professional services market and in-depth conversations with industry thought leaders, please visit us online at thomsonreuters.com/institute and follow us on LinkedIn under the Thomson Reuters Institute. Clarity is a production of Thomson Reuters, copyright Thomson Reuters 2025.